This is the second lecture in this particular module, that is theory of production. In this module, in this presentation, we are going to discuss about various laws of production. Okay, basically two laws of production, and this is going to be a very brief presentation also, I suppose. Now, to recapitulate what we have learned in the previous lecture, that is, production is nothing but conversion of inputs into outputs. So, inputs are land, labor, capital, and organization, or we call it as entrepreneurship. Output can be any product or service. Now, we also studied about production function. I hope you have gone through the video also. I'm not very sure whether you could go through the video, but if you haven't gone through the video, you must go through the video, only then you will understand. Okay, so it's important to go through those video, because production function need to be explained by solving or by using a blackboard, which is not possible right now. That's why I have added a video, and you must go through the video for the production function. You must understand that. If you have a doubt, you have to ask me also with regard to production function. So production function, in short, it's a function of various aspects. For example, its a production function is function of A, B, C, or different aspects. A, B, C are different inputs such as land, labor, capital, etc., etc. Q, normally output is we know output we represent by the symbol Q. And there are also other symbols which you have studied. L is for labor, K is for capital. Right. So you need to remember this particular, three symbols also. Q is always for quantity or output. L is for labor and K is for capital. Now, types of production functions. So we can say there are two different types of production function. One is short-run production function and second one is the long-run production function. So production function for the short run, production function for the long run. And the production function for the short run is called law of variable proportions. Law of variable proportions, because we can vary only one or two inputs. Other inputs will remain, at least one input will remain fixed. So in long run, at least one input is fixed. All the other inputs are variable. And such a situation we call it as short run. In long run, all the inputs are variable. I hope you remember the difference between short run and long run. When can you say something is short run? When can you say something is long run? It is long run when at a time when everything is variable. That is when you can add more labor, more capital, more land. That particular time period, the time period you will take to add all these inputs are called long run. But till that particular point of time, it is at least one variable is fixed. You cannot increase that particular variable. That is called short run. For example, Serum Institute. They will be able to, if you ask them to increase the production, double its production, they might ask, let us say 6 months, because they need to buy new buildings, buy new equipments, etc., etc. So they may be able to buy a new building is within 3 months, but they have to order and get new equipments that may take 6 months. So the labor is variable. Now here building is also variable. That is, building we can get within 3 months, but equipments may take 6 months to arrive. Therefore, after 6 months they can add more equipment also. So 6 months will be the long run for this particular Serum Institute. This long run will vary for different organizations. It may be from 1 minute to any number of years. Okay, it could be even decades also. So short run and long run, you need to understand the difference very clearly. Short run, at least one input is fixed. Long run, all the inputs are variable. Okay. So short run production function is called law of variable proportions. And long run production function is called the returns to scale. Returns to scale. Okay. Now, if you represent the same thing in a chart, you can understand like this. Short run we call it as law of variable proportions. Long run, where all inputs are varying, we call it as law of returns to scale. Okay. Now, law of variable proportions. This is a law, okay, law in economics. Law exhibits the short-term production function in which one factor is variable and others are fixed, okay. Now, what is the law? Law states that increase in a variable factor, that is at least one factor is varied, keeping other factors constant. That means other factors remain fixed. Then what will happen to the total product? What will happen to the total product? That's what we are discussing here. It increases at an increasing rate, increases at a diminishing rate, and finally starts declining. That means there are three stages to the law of variable proportions. That means you increase one input, all the other inputs remains the same. So what happens here is, when you keep on increasing one particular input alone in a production process, your output will increase. The total product will increase at an increasing rate initially, then it will increase but at a diminishing rate, and after a certain point of time it will start declining. This we have seen in the previous lecture. I have explained that with the help of a chart. And the reason why it is called law of variable proportions, okay, so as we no, in simple terms, as we increase the amount of input, the output will vary. That's why it is called law of variable proportions. That concept is explained with the help of a chart here. Okay. Now, here we are taking the example of some units of land, labor. So this could be a typical example. Okay. Now, what is fixed here? Land. Suppose you have got 10 acres of land. If you want to add one more acre of land, no, it is not easy. No, it will take time. We have to find new, earn money and buy new amount of land. That will take at least some time. Okay. But what about labor? You can always increase labor. So labor is a variable input. You can increase or decrease the amount of labor. Those who have got cardamom plantations easily know that, or in rubber plantations also we easily know that. So the amount of land available is stable or is fixed, but you can increase or decrease the amount of laborers. Okay. Now let us see. So this is fixed, so let us not bother about this particular aspect. Land is fixed. This input is fixed. And this input is variable. And here we have got 0 laborers, so everything is 0. Total product, average product, everything is 0. But we keep on increasing the amount of laborers here. From 1 to 2 to 3 to up to 8 we increase. So let us see what happens here. When we have one laborer, output is 20 units. Second laborer will give you 50 units of output. Third unit of labor will give you 90 units of output. And the 8th laborer will give you 140 units of output. In between something happened. What is that? When we have 6th laborer, you have got 150 units of output. When you added 7th laborer also, nothing happened. Your output did not change. So having a 7th laborer is actually unnecessary, because having 6 laborers and 7 laborers will give you the same amount of output. But if you haven't realized that particular aspect, and if you still keep on increasing the amount of labor, what will happen? Your output will start declining. This is true in all the cases. In your farm also, this is just common sense. Suppose if you got some farm, if you earn number of laborers, the yield from the farm will increase only up to a point. But if you have unviable proportion of labor in your land, you have to pay salary to these laborers, wages to these laborers, but the yield will be not increasing beyond a particular point. Okay. Now what happens to average production? Average product is increasing at an increasing rate, then increasing at a diminishing rate, right? And it will start declining. So here it is increasing at an increasing rate, Now it is increasing at a diminishing rate, and after that it starts declining. Okay. Now this particular portion we can understand with the help of the marginal chart, marginal production, right? So 50 minus 20 will give you 30, and 90 minus 50 will give you 40, and 120 minus 90 will give you 30. So until this particular aspect, until this particular point, that is first when you added 3 laborers, this is the first stage where marginal product is greater than average product. This is called the stage 1. Stage 1. That is up to, stage 1 will be up to 3 laborers. Now what happens is that you keep on increasing the laborers from 4 to 5 to 6 like that, right? Now until this particular level, that is until the 6th laborers, your output increased. You can see that your output was increasing from 120 to 140 to 150, but it increased at a decreasing rate, because as you added more and more laborers, your output per laborer only decreased from 30 to 20 to 10. That is, initially one laborer could give you 20. When you added more laborer, each laborer gave you 30 units of output. When you added one more laborer, each person gave you 40 units of labor, 40 units of output. When you added the 4th laborer, average output became 30. For the 5th laborer, average output became 20. And for 6th laborer, average output became 10. So it is declining at this particular level. This is called the second stage. Increasing but at a decreasing rate. What about third stage? It will be, your output will start declining. So in law of variable proportion, we can say that there are 3 different stages in increasing the or varying the input. So what happens is that it will increase at an increasing rate, it will increase at a decreasing rate, and finally it will start declining. That is called law of variable proportions. Law of variable proportion is only for the short period. You should remember that, because only one variable is being changed. All the other variables remain the same. Okay. Therefore, that's called short run, and that's called law of variable proportions. That is shown in a graph like this. Okay, it increased until this particular stage it is increasing at increasing rate, increasing at a decreasing rate, and it reaches maturity or top peak, it peaks and it will start declining. It starts declining. Okay. And you might have seen this particular term, point of inflection. It could be XION or CTION. So inflection could be, any of this spelling could be used. So normally it may not, the graph may not look exactly like this. It may go like this. It may go like this, and there will be a small bend here, right? So this particular bend which happens here is called the point of inflection. At point of inflection only, what happens? The output increases at a diminishing rate. So point of inflection means the point where the output increases at a diminishing rate. Now, law of returns to scale. What was the first law? Law of variable proportions. Law of variable proportion is for short period or short run. Therefore, second law, that is law of returns to scale, will be for long run. Obviously, it will be for long run. Right. In long run, dichotomy, that is difference between fixed factor and variable factor, is over. There is no more fixed factor, there is no more variable factor. There is no more fixed factor. Every factor is a variable factor in long run. So you can increase any amount of input to any level in a long run. Okay. So that means in long run all the factors are variable. Therefore, the law of returns to scale examines the relationship between output and scale of input in the long run when all inputs are increased in the same proportion. So when you increase all the inputs in the same proportion, what will happen to the output? We are going to examine that in a law of returns to scale. Now, similar to law of variable proportions, law of returns to scale also talks about three aspects, three stages: law of increasing returns, law of constant returns, and law of decreasing returns. Earlier we had law of increasing at increasing rate, increasing at a diminishing rate, increasing, finally starts falling. That was third stage. Now here we have got increasing returns, constant returns, and decreasing returns. Let us see what these three things are. Okay. Now this is a graph. We have got a table, and let us look at this particular table and let us understand. Now these are different combinations. A, B, C, D, E, F, G are different combinations. Combinations of what? Machine and labor. First combination talks about having one machine and two laborers. So you have got one machine and you have got two laborers. Because one machine in this case could be operated probably only by two laborers. So when you have got only one machine and two laborers, your output is 100. You are able to produce 100 units of a particular thing. Now you find there is demand and you add one more machine and therefore you have to add two more laborers. So you increase, that means you have doubled your input, machine and laborers. And when you doubled the input, what happened to the output? Was it only doubling? No, it was actually the output is more than doubled, right? It is 250. If it was doubling, it should have been only 200. Now it is 250. That means it has increased more than the increase in the input. Now again, from 2 to 4, you have increased. That means you are buying 4 machines and therefore you have got 8 laborers, right? That means you have doubled the input. Now your output is 600 units. Right. Now you have increased from 4 to 8. That means that you have doubled. That is, there's 100% increase in the input. Now the output is 1,200 units. Now you are increasing from 8 to 16. That is, again you are making 100% increase. That is, you are doubling it. Your output becomes 2,400. Now, how we noted the peculiarity here? Here it was increasing. Here, when we gave 100% increase in the input, okay, here it was more than 100%. Output was more than 100%. But after a point, after a particular point, after maybe adding 2 machines or 4 machines, what happened is, here when you have added this, when you have increased it by 100%, the output also increased from 600 to 1200, which is again exactly double. That is, there's 100% increase in the output. When you increase from 8 machines to 16 machines, what happened? Your output increased from 1200 to 2400, which is again a proportionate increase. Here there is 100% increase in the input. Here there is 100% increase in the output. We call it as constant returns. That is, when you increase the input, the output increases proportionately. Earlier we had increasing returns. That is, when you increase the inputs, your output increased disproportionately, more than proportionate increase we had. Now here in second case we only have proportionate increase. And the third stage is diminishing returns. That is, you are still increasing the machine from 32 to 64. At 34, when you had 32 machines, we had 4,000 output. When you double it, the output has increased, but not at a proportionate level. Output did not, here at least we had 100% increase. Here we have got less than 100% increase. So this is called diminishing return. So there are 3 stages in law of returns to scale: increasing returns, constant returns, and diminishing returns. This is called law of diminishing returns. So you might have already noted the difference between law of variable proportions and law of returns to scale. Okay, now the same thing is given in a graph. We can see it here, right? So when you increase by 100%, right, your output increases from 1 to 3. Earlier it was 1, now it has become 3. So you increase labor from only by, sorry, capital and labor only by 1 unit, but your output increased by at least 300%. From B to C, what happens? From 2 to 4, that is, you have added 2 units of labor and 2 units of output. That is, there is a doubling of input. What happened to the output? 3 to 6. That means your output also has become doubled, right? So this is increasing proportions. B to C is constant returns, and let us say C to D. You have increased from 4 to 6. That is, you have doubled. What happened? You have doubled your input of labor, and 2 to 4, 4 to 8. That is, you have doubled your input of labor also. What happened to the output? Earlier we had 6 units of output. Now it is only 8 units. It did not double. It increased, but increased at a decreasing rate, right? So though we have added more units of capital, more units of labor, earlier at this A to B we had increasing returns, B to C we have got constant returns, and C to D we have got decreasing returns. This is the chart representing the law of returns to scale. I hope you understood this. Thank you.